بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Since September 2019, the Islamic Education Trust Human Welfare Department has positively touched over 6,500 lives through its intervention program, the food aid program, the financial aid program, Qurbani meat distribution during Eid al-Adha, Widows Empowerment Program, the Orphan Care Program, and the Tree Planting Program. For this good work to continue and be sustained, we need your continuous support. Jazakumullahu khairan as we look forward to your generous donation. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You are welcome to our program, Marriage and its Contemporary Realities. This is the 8th episode of the program. My name is Ibrahim Yahya. I have with me here to handle the program and discuss at length on this issue. And in today's episode, which is 8th in the series of our episodes, Sheikh Muhammad Isa Aliyu.
Assalamu alaikum
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sheikh Isa Aliyu will be discussing issues relating to how to administer and solve marital problems. Sheikh, you are welcome.
Thank you very much. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على هذا النبي الأمي وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعه بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. I greet you, brothers and sisters, with the words of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. As earlier introduced, our topic of discussion today, inshallah, is on how to administer and solve marital problems. In our previous episode, we discussed about the causes of marital problems. And we reached a stage whereby it will be difficult for a marriage that has no marital problem at all. It varies from one couple to another. But those marital problems, whatever been the cause, there are ways to administer them and to solve them. It is important to make your way of perceiving things understandable to your partner. If your partner does not understand you, then there will always be problems. And even if the problem is a minor problem, it will be amplified because either the husband or the wife does not understand his or her partner. So you should make things clear, and this is the way I perceive things, this is the way I understand things, this is the way I behave. All those things should be clear to one another, particularly during the early first days of the marriage. The Prophet ﷺ gave us the following guide with regard to how to solve marital problems. However, there are what we call preventive measures, and there are curative measures, and there are the Prophet's guide when the problem worsens. And there is even the Islamic guide, that is from the Quran and Sunnah, on when it becomes too complicated, how to solve them. These four categories will be handled in isolation, inshallah. Now, the first one is about the preventive measures. That's to avoid, in the first place, that problem even appearing, or for you to even see the problem occurring in the first place. The Prophet ﷺ told us in an authentic hadith, he said, إِنَّ الرَّجُلَ إِذَا نَظَرَ إِلَى امْرَأَتِهِ وَنَظَرَتْ إِلَيْهِ نَظَرَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ مَا نَظْرَةَ رَحْمَةٍ وَإِذَا أَخَذَ بِكَفِّهَا تَسَاقَطَتْ ذُنُوبُهُمَا مِنْ خِلَالِ أَصَابِعِهِمَا. These are the preventive measures. He said, if a person looks at his wife, that is in a lovely way, نظر الله إليهما نظرة رحمة. That is, if he looks at her with a smilish face and there's love and affection and sympathy in it, وَنَظَرَتْ إِلَيْهِ, and she gave him the same type of look. The hadith says, نَظَرَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِمَا نَظْرَةَ رَحْمَةٍ. Allah will look at both of them with an eye of mercy. Indirectly, Allah will be merciful upon them just by looking at each other. That feeling that you have sent to him or to her by just a look, Allah will be merciful unto you in this world and in the next world. So a mere look brings one of the greatest favors of this world to you. وَإِذَا أَخَذَ بِكَفِّهَا, that look can be accompanied with a smile. When he holds her hands, that is, they hold the hand of each other. Which means when we talk about marriage, what we feel is not supposed to be done outside marriage is something that even is rewardable in marriage. Holding her, that is a romantic hold. And even a hug. تَسَاقَطَتْ ذُنُوبُهُمَا مِنْ خِلَالِ أَصَابِعِهِمَا. Their sins, the small sins that they might have done, will be rushing down from their fingers. So it will be wiped away just because of a hold. So the preventive measures are simply a lovely look and a smile, which we find difficult today to do, which many, even some scholars, find difficult to do to their wives. And a smilish face. We once had a lesson where Aisha was reporting the Prophet saying that, talking about the Prophet saying that, كَانَ ضَحَّكًا بَسَّامًا. He uses to laugh a lot, he smiles a lot. So you look at your wife with a smilish face, it's a preventive measure for marital problem. Then followed by a hug, holding hands and even hugging each other. It is Islamic, it is rewardable, it is encouraged by Allah and His Apostle, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If a couple is used to these three things, whenever he comes back from work, whenever he's going to office, whenever he's sitting with her, you can see this smilish, lovely look with sympathy, with affection. That alone makes her calm down. But if you see her having some suspicion here and there, maybe the face sends a lot of messages, positive or negative. Now, the second one is curative measures. Curative measures are already, the problem has started. But how do we solve this problem so that it stops quickly? It's more difficult than the first one. The first thing with regard to curative measures is avoid the use of second person when addressing issues with one another. You told me, and you said this, and I have observed you, and I have noticed that you always, that word you, should be avoided. When a husband and wife are talking, there's a prophetic guide on that. The Prophet ﷺ, when he observes a particular companion having a problem, what does he say in the hadith? He said, "Ma balu aqwam." What can you say about a certain group of people that usually do this or do that? And the person is sitting before him, and he knows his name, and he can even just touch him from where he was sitting. But say, "What ma balu aqwam?" What can you say about a certain group of people that don't do this, don't do that? Such group of people, which means none of them is here, usually do this. The Prophet ﷺ at times will be having a lesson with his companions, and he'll discover that one's ablution, he needs to go and do his ablution again, for one reason or the other. He said, "Please, let's all go and do ablution." And he knows it's just one person. So avoid you pointing at a finger at somebody. It looks like confrontation. You're confronting that person. And even if a problem is small and you start with the second person and repeatedly second person, then it complicates the whole problem because that person feels offended and doesn't feel free to discuss any issue with you. The second aspect of curative measures is apologizing. You should be used to saying, "I'm sorry," or "It's my fault," or "Inshallah, I will not do it again." These three sentences are one of the most difficult sentences for a great chunk of people nowadays, particularly the husbands. The husband feels, how can I look at my wife and say I apologize? But that apologizing is Islamic, and it is instructed by the Prophet ﷺ. And he apologizes to his wives as well. There are a lot of prophetic narration on incidences between him and his wives, and he apologizes. If you misunderstood somebody, or you have wrong assumption, or you thought he was the one and not, it wasn't him that did the something, you apologize. Sorry, I thought you were the one who took it from here. And that's all. But you say, I will not apologize. But when the other person does it to you, that person must apologize. This is already a problem. The third curative measure is don't allow the problem to exceed the boundaries of the house. Some people, particularly nowadays, are used to using phone. For every marital secret, it has to. It may even go on Twitter, or even Instagram, or Facebook, or WhatsApp. Something that is between you and your husband. It's not a bless. It's you can relatives, good friends are blessings, but you can convert those blessings into fitna onto yourself. There are people that want to even be giving people updates about a previous problem between him and his wife, or her and her husband. Okay, last week I told you. Okay, just the day before yesterday he did this to me. Already that marriage can hardly stand. It is a secret. Because Allah described it as mithaq and galiza, a very heavy covenant between a husband and wife in the Quran. That is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described it. Marriage. So then, if it has exceeded the preventive stage and has exceeded the curative stage, if it worsens now, are there steps that we should take? Yes, there are steps that we should take. The first step is amicable settlement, which is called sulh. Allah told us in the glorious Quran, He said, وَإِنِ امْرَأَةٌ خَافَتْ مِنْ بَعْلِهَا نُشُوزًا أَوْ إِرَادًا فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِمَا إِنْ يُصْلِحَا بَيْنَهُمَا وَالصُّلْحُ خَيْرٌ. He said, if a woman fears cruelty or desertion from her husband, then it is good. It's advisable for them to have amicable settlement. وَالصُّلْحُ خَيْرٌ. And in marriage, settlement is a blessing. So it is there, and that is why Allah puts it there in the verse that there should be amicable settlement. So always, and when it comes to settlement, it means everybody has calmed down his nerves. It's not confrontation, it is consultation stage, and you sit down and understand one another. The second one is tolerance from both parties. If there's no tolerance, let's forget about the issue of peaceful marital life. You cannot tolerate, and I will not tolerate, because two different people are coming with two different mindsets, with two different level of exposure. In most cases, two different level of academic standard, and two different family backgrounds, and at times even two different cultures. So combine all these things together. The first thing that has to come in is tolerance. So you don't say, I'm expecting a wife that is 100% okay, or a husband that is 100% okay. You try to start understanding each other, and at a stage, after some time, you reach that stage, that the desired level you want. Then, at the same time, the third one is avoid the use of the phrase, that is how I am. This is one of the worst phrases that you can use when you come to stay together with somebody. Most especially when it is husband and wife. This is how I am. Since I was a child, since I was small, this is how I am. So it cannot work. Now, some key factors that bind couples together. They are true love, tolerance, and the last one is forgiveness. The Quranic guide to disloyal and arrogant partners. You preach unto her, فَإِذُوهُنَّ, وَهْجُرُهُنَّ, then distance them from where you sleep. To an extent whereby he said, وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ, they should be light beaten. That is a harmless one. In a hadith of the Prophet, ضَرْبًا غَيْرَ مُبْرَحٍ, it will not cause any harm to her, not to injure her. Now, in a nutshell, however marital problem looks like, a scholar has just put them in two phrases how to solve them. First of all, is that when a marital problem just comes, you should talk in a polite way to one another. And then, apart from that, the harsh statement can be followed with abuse, then counter abuse, and it leads to divorce. But the best is tagadin fariqatun fadumu'an. You overlook, then everybody feels that he has done something wrong. Then there will be tears. Then at last, it may reach a hug and forgiving one another. And this is in a nutshell the little we can say with regard to administering marital problems.
Thank you, Sheikh Muhammad Isa Aliyu, for taking us through all these ways, the means by which we can resolve these issues. Very interesting. Inshallah, viewers, we will go a short break. When we come back, we continue this interesting discussion.